Could me and George be like Julius Caesar and Pompey staring at each other across the Rubicon in this, the spicy question? I got a little Roman Empire
Yeah,
reference
what a
there.
hell of an
Yeah.
anecdote, that, Frankie.
Yeah, but maybe niche, but if you're into history, you'll know it. Today, George, I ask you, oh, it's a big one. Do reports suggesting Bayern Munchen are interested in Unai Emery cause you any worry at all?
Um, my voice was warbling there, but that's really because I've just got a bit of a chest infection rather
Your
than any
voice is fine.
concern about.
Your voice is finally
Oh,
broken. Your voice finally broke after all these years.
yeah. The thought of Emery leaving Villa is just turning me into just a complete mess.
Yeah.
No, not especially. I'll be honest, Frankie. I'm really not concerned about it. I think
Okay.
it would be strange if given the work he's done at Villa, that whenever big jobs do appear, that Emery's name isn't in some way linked to it. And he's such an elite level manager. We all know that when elite level jobs come up at clubs across Europe, that he is going to be linked to it in some
Yeah.
sort of capacity.
You're right.
I don't know. I think with Emery, he's a seasoned operator. He's been at many clubs, of all different sizes and different financial budgets and different pressures and all the rest of it. And I like to think, I mean, football has this way of just proving me wrong every single time. But I like to think he's at a club now, Villa, where all the boxes are ticked for him.
Mhm.
I don't know if any other club um, in Europe can give him what we can currently give him. As I said, he's managed some big clubs before in Arsenal and Bayern Munich, not Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah.
I hope not Bayern Munich. Paris Saint-Germain, where he's experienced Champions League football, and he's had that pressure of trying to compete at the top of the league, and it hasn't really worked out for him at those clubs,
Mhm.
where he's found much more success at clubs, arguably the next sort of rung of the ladder down, where he's managed to build them up into teams that are knocking at the door of the elite level clubs.
Anyone
And
with Villa in the name, Villarreal,
yeah,
Sevilla, Aston Villa.
yeah, basically, yeah. And he's managing the Premier League, arguably the most competitive, the best league in the world, at a very historical big club with a big fan base, much bigger fan base than even the teams like Sevilla and Villarreal that he's been at before. He's got the full support of the owners. He's allowed to bring in every player, every coach that he wants, every sporting director that he wants. He has his own club has been bought by the owners of Aston Villa. I just don't think. I think there has just been this agreement in place that that both Emery and the club are in this, whatever we are in, this little sort of like roller coaster ride. We're all in it together, and I'm just not convinced that there is another project out there which will meet his demands, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Because if he goes to a Bayern Munich, there's always going to be owners or difficult players to manage, or difficult coaches, or members of the board, or whatever, that will want more control
Mhm.
than he is currently offered at Aston Villa.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just a really we're in such a good place with him at the moment. It's a really exciting project. He must be excited about where he can take us. He's got the adoration of the supporters and the fans. Obviously the players love him. The players are playing up for him and have sung his praises. So with all that in mind, I just don't think that even a club like Bayern Munich, and as successful and historic and prestigious as that, I'm still not convinced that he'll be tempted by that. And also, I wouldn't be convinced that he would be their number one choice anyway. I think they'd be
Mhm.
much more keen on getting a Xabi Alonso in.
Yes. Yeah, I
And
agree with that.
would
Yeah.
he want to go to a club um, who's trying to get somebody else first?
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, I'm not too concerned.
Yeah, I think it's something we're going to have to get used to leading up to this summer. I sort of feel like there's going to be a lot of big clubs looking for managers, and I just think Unai Emery, naturally, his name is going to come up because he's just done such an absolutely phenomenal job at Aston Villa, and he's following up his performance at Villa with a great performance at Villarreal as well. He got them to a Champions League semi-final. He won the Europa League with them. That's an absolutely phenomenal performance. And
absolutely,
now what he's done with Villa from where we were when he took over this rapidly, it's just been just incredible. Like, it really is incredible. And no question at all that, teams like a Bayern Munich and Liverpool, even Manchester United, they are going to have him. They're going to draw up the managerial wish lists, and he's a name that probably will come up in conversations. That's fine. That's just the nature of football. It's what it is. But I think what you said is a good point, about like Xabi Alonso, for instance. Now, I think Bayer Leverkusen are probably the best team I've watched this season. I just absolutely think they're an amazing team to watch. I think what he's doing there is extraordinary, and he's clearly on course for a top managerial career if he can continue what he's done this season elsewhere. And I do think he'll be the number one choice for Bayern Munich and Liverpool, but I wouldn't be surprised if he stays at Leverkusen for another year and then goes to Real Madrid maybe in a year and a bit. I think with Emery, it would be a bit of a risk in the sense, obviously he'd back himself at these clubs. He'd back himself to go to Bayern Munich and win things. And, if he was given assurances by their board that they'd always back him and there'd be no interference, I'm sure he'd consider it. But the thing is, like, Bayern Munich, you are going into a bit of it's a different pressure to Villa, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have a couple of bad results as he's had at Villa, against Newcastle and Chelsea recently. It doesn't matter. We all hold him in such high regard that he can just there's no pressure on him, really, even though he obviously puts pressure on himself. It's not the same pressure you get if Bayern Munich lost a couple of games. The pressure on him, the players in the squad, it'd just be a different thing. And also, Bayern, you've got that drama of Uli Hoeneß up there and all the board members, the former Bayern players. It's just a different pressure. And at Villa, he's not got that. He's got a perfect setup. He's got, we've brought in Monchi as a sporting director.
Yeah.
We brought in Vidagani, who works with him. We've got essentially, Real Union link, his family club. It's a club that's built in his image now, and there's not many managers ever will get that in their career. They'll never get that sort of freedom to do kind of what they want. And, obviously, who knows what happens with FFP going forward? It seems like every club in the country seems to be really concerned with it at the moment. Newcastle look like a club, despite all the money they've got, there's some problems there. So, who knows how that might impact things in the future. But at the same time, I'm thinking, Emery is definitely here for the long haul, I think. And his career tends to have been 3-4 seasons at clubs, 2, 3, 4. I just think with Villa, he's probably getting a level of control that he's maybe not had before, and he might not get elsewhere. And he'll get a different kind of pressure if he ever went to a Man United or something like that. And it feels like a losing game to clubs going to clubs like United at the moment and Bayern maybe. But I just think with Villa, he's proven himself already. He's proven he can work with clubs like a Villa. So I'm not too worried about these things. I think there'll be a lot of noise from the media, just a lot of lazy links, but some legitimate links as well. But I'm not too worried about it at all. I think he is in this for longer than this season. And Newcastle went for him at Villarreal and he didn't go. It wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
He left it to another year. So yeah, I'm not too worried.
No, and as I said, he's been there and done that with the big clubs. He's not like, if he was a younger manager like Xabi Alonso, and starting his career, and had only experienced 1 or 2 clubs of a certain stature, and then his successes led him to a bigger club. The lure of that, you kind of understand that would be difficult to turn down, but as I said, he's experienced. He's been to PSG. He's been to Arsenal. He's been to some top clubs, and it hasn't, from an outsider looking in, it hasn't kind of worked out for him for whatever reason. And now he's where he is at Villa and still competing at a high level. I think certainly at this stage as well. There might be a point where he's at Villa for a couple of years and he just gets a bit itchy, he gets itchy feet, or, which can happen to any manager, coach, player, whatever. No one's going to be at a club forever. That's just not the way football works these days. But certainly at the moment he's in the middle of this project, which is far from finished. We're still competing in a European Cup competition. We're still competing for top four, and if we do get top four, then next season will be a Champions League campaign for him to look forward to. Reinvesting money in the playing squad to get more players.
Hopefully, a Champions League campaign.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah. I've got. That's what I. But
fingers crossed.
This is what we're all. This is the project. We're on that path. Yeah. And if we get it, as you say, Frankie, then that will open up a world of possibilities in terms of the type of player that he could attract, and the club can attract generally. I mean, yes, as you say, there are these FFP constraints, which means that we might have to sell, maybe one or two players. But if we get Champions League football, that obviously will benefit us financially. So maybe we won't. And then we'll, because, a lot of the players that are there are players that he hasn't personally signed, although they've been very good for him. And I'm sure he wants to keep them. There's certainly the scope there for him to keep kind of molding and crafting that squad in his image, working with Monchi and the other people behind the scenes to create the team that he wants. And as you say, at a Bayern Munich, that there's not really that scope for him to do that. Obviously, he'll have a say in who comes in and who he plays.
He'd always have a great squad there.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But the model would be very different to what it is currently for him at Aston Villa. There hasn't been any indication that he's unhappy. Sometimes you might hear these kind of rumors that come out because his agent or whatever is quite keen on him moving on. That tends to happen with some players and some managers, that you'll just hear things come out in the media or hear things on social media or whatever. There's none of that.
No,
everything you hear from Emery and from the camp and everything else at Villa Park at the moment is they're all pretty happy. He likes the team. He likes the setup. He likes what he's doing. So, yeah, there's no concern.
Absolutely. And I think, I mentioned Julius Caesar and Pompey looking at each other across the Rubicon, like me and you. Do you think Unai Emery would be a good Roman emperor? I could see.
Oh yeah. I mean, Unai just sounds like a Roman emperor,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Unai Emerius.
Unai Emerius. Like and Emeritus.
Emeritus, yeah. he sort of led the conquest of Nottingham or somewhere like that,
No, I could sort of see him like I mean, obviously if he gets us Champions League football, there will be a statue of him outside Villa Park, I'm sure, but a marble statue, sort of Romanesque, you can see sort of Widow's Peak, but in marble, glistening in the Birmingham sunshine, holding some sort of spear and
a Champions League trophy to his own.
Holding Vercingetorix's head. So
after he's put PSG to the sword or something,
but
it'd be like this is very niche reference to John. There's probably some history nerds out there.
He's like, I get that.
Finally, the podcast I've been waiting for.
Oh, they're
combining football and history. The rest is history.
They're talking about goals. Okay, cool,
finally, this is what I'm looking for. But I think and I've always thought. I've always thought Jose Mourinho would be like he would have been a Roman emperor. I think. He'd have had an amazing early career where he just conquered the world. It was all going up, but then he'd just fall out with everyone, and eventually gets his memory damned. It just all goes a bit wrong in the end. But at the start, it's like, who is this star? And then
the special one.
I think Emi Martinez is definitely a gladiator who revels in destroying everyone who steps into the Colosseum with him. And I think Ollie Watkins is a man made out of marble. He looks like a literal. He's the perfect man, isn't he? He's just looks like literal marbles.
He would be kind of the Russell Crowe gladiator.
Yes.
The man of decent morals and brave.
Wants to restore the Republic.
Exactly. Yeah. I can see that. See that. Well, they're making a new gladiator, aren't they, Frankie? So maybe Ollie Watkins needs to be cast in that in some sort of capacity.
That's it. And Emi Martinez will be like a comical villain, sort of in it.
I think Martinez would be more like the anti-hero.
Yes,
the anti-hero.
We all love him secretly, don't we?
But he's a proper. I mean, he's a real. You know,
He sort of defeats someone in the Colosseum, rips off their arm, and then uses it like that trophy he did at the World Cup, like holds it over his crotch area.
He'd have like this huge scar that runs sort of like down his face like this.
There's probably a lot of people listening to this being like, "What the hell has this? This took a detour. Where did this go?"
I look forward to the YouTube comments about all this. But you know, if you see any Villa player, past or present, as some sort of Roman general, please leave those comments in the comment section below. Let us know who you think would be a Roman general.
Remy Gard and Tim Sherwood in the Year of the Five Emperors. Just last about a month each, and then
exactly. Yeah. A tumultuous time in Villa's history.